Good morning, everyone. Well, morning in Tucson, Arizona. This is Donna Reed, and I traveled and up with people in 1976A, which I'm pretty sure most of you already know that. An homage to Paul Caldwell this morning, a shout out because I have some cactus pictures behind me, so the Cactus Lounge can be appropriate. And my guest this morning is Michael, and Michael traveled in 80B, which he just put on lines. That's the only reason I know. So welcome.
Thanks, Don. It's great to be with you.
And someone asked me this morning, I was chatting with an alumni who's living in France, how I find people to interview. And of course, I started with people I know, which I told you a little bit ago. And then other people suggest other people. And that's why you're here. But I'm going to tell you why I even recognize your name. It's because of all the photos that you're putting together of the cast photos on the alumni page. That's freaking awesome. I don't know how you do that. What inspired you to do that?
Well, I've been working with the alumni organization for 15 years, 20 years maybe, and I've been working with the digital archives, the things
Oh,
that appear in video. We're kind of moving into a new realm from the physical archives that live at the University of Arizona and moving into a more digital realm. And so
right.
back in 2013, I decided to try to harvest from the internet those Up With People performance videos that existed and then build on that. And,
Okay.
now we're almost up to 1,000 videos, 1,200 subscribers. So digital storytelling is really something that I love to do. And so the cast poster idea was just something that I thought would be really good to engage alumni, especially over the holidays when people have more downtime. And
Yeah.
I kind of came up with the concept of a bingo card, and so I created, 9 different bingo cards, and we're slowly but surely filling in lots of those spaces with cast posters or official cast photos. I
Yeah.
know prior to the 70s or mid 70s, there wasn't really an official cast poster taken,
No.
certainly not one for merchandising. By the time I
Yep.
traveled in 1980, it was a hot seller. We sold those at every show.
Yeah, I see that. The picture that I uploaded, I literally went to my cast page. I go, does anybody have a picture from Saltillo? And then they sent a picture. And then I told you it was Saltillo. And they went, no, that was Tennessee or Kentucky. I'm like, we didn't do anything. And the same people are in the picture. So I don't care.
We've had great debate among the 65 to 71 crowd about when the pictures should actually appear in the different time slots because memories are somewhat hazy and need to be corrected
Yeah.
and verified and fact checked.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So, but we also, I don't know about you, but we have run across this. I swear to God. So we were at a reunion a couple years ago, in Virginia at the Camp Horizons at John Hall, and one of my friends that I rode with was talking about doing PR at this town in Idaho or Wyoming, and I'm like, we didn't go there.
No.
She goes, yes, we did. I'm like, I have my, we didn't go there.
Idaho can be kind of forgettable. I'm from Idaho originally.
Oh, that's what you said, but she's like, but and I did PR. So we have this ongoing debate where we're all like, I don't think I went there. And it makes me laugh as we age because there's a whole thing about how every year you meet old friends, but you don't remember. So you just
Yeah.
all right. So you just said you were from Idaho. Where did you and you told me that you interviewed in 79. Is that when you first saw a show or
No,
how
no,
did
no.
that happen?
I think my parents tell me that they took me to my first show in 69 or 68
Wow.
in Coeur
Okay.
d'Alene, Idaho. We were living in Coeur d'Alene at the time.
Beautiful place.
Um, and then and then also then 74, Expo 74 in Spokane, which is just across the state line.
Yeah.
I pestered them all summer long to take me once a week to see Up With People perform in the US Pavilion.
Oh,
I was a groupie and not barely into my teens. And then a cast would come to my hometown. My hometown when I went to high school was Grangeville, Idaho, which is the hometown of Reed Thompson.
oh, that's what you said in your message to me. Yeah. Right.
And so I was kind of bred and raised to become part of Up With People, and I didn't have a plan B. So as soon as I turned 18, I begged my father, didn't have to beg much because I think he saw the writing on the wall. He drove me 500 miles to a little town called Nyssa, Oregon, which
Wow.
was the closest a cast was getting to where we lived.
Wow.
And we watched the show, and afterward, I interviewed with Jose Luis Gonzalez Segura, a friend that we both have in common and miss dearly.
Yep.
And I think Jose Luis spent as much time interviewing my father after he passed me off to a couple of other cast members, because he just wanted to know. He wanted to know the root of a person. He wanted to know what was at their core, and
Learning
I
that from a
gave him.
parent, maybe, huh?
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then the rest was kind of history up with
So
people
were you
history.
a senior in high school that year
It
then?
was.
Okay.
Yeah. I
Okay.
turned 18 about 2 weeks before going to Tucson for staging.
Oh, you must be a birthday right around mine. I'm June 28th.
April 4th.
Oh, you went, okay. So our staging was July.
Yeah.
So and I literally had my birthday, turned 18 and flew the next week to Tucson.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
and I
So
remember
coming from
thinking,
Idaho,
go
yeah, I was
ahead.
just going to say, coming from Idaho, I mean, my worldview exploded open. I just, we'd done traveling as a family, but not extensively.
Right.
And so it was my ticket out of Idaho. I look back at that and realized that, that was pivotal. That was,
Do you
important.
think that you had that in mind when you decided to go travel? To
I
go do this?
did. I just, I grew up and I knew I was different. I was popular with girls. I was musical. I was into drama. I was bullied a lot.
Mm,
And grew up in a small town, as Reed can attest, less than 3,000 people,
right.
96 people in my graduating high school class. And I had to get out. I couldn't, I just, there was no future
Wow.
there. So Up with People was that ticket. And I didn't know what I would have done. I wasn't even applying to universities. All my eggs were in one basket.
Wow. That's fascinating. So, you saw a lot of shows through the years. What was that show the year that do you remember what the songs and stuff were in the show that year? So, because they started
Um,
naming shows, and for the bicentennial, we didn't have a name for our show.
Yeah, yeah. Push On Through
Okay.
was the first show that I really remember.
Okay.
Because you buy the albums, you listen to them over and over
Yeah.
again, and
Yeah.
stare at the cast posters, and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So, after you traveled the first year, did you come back as staff? Did you travel additional years or?
No, interestingly enough, 15 years after I traveled, I was living in Denver at the time, and it was the same time that Up with People was moving its headquarters from Tucson to
Right.
Field.
90s. Yep.
And I joined the Denver convention cast, and I performed 15 years later, after my original run, for about a year and a half. We did shows. We did
Wow.
World Youth Day for Pope John Paul II. We performed for Bill Clinton. It was just a great way to relive a magical moment 15 years later.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And now you told me you're in Victoria, British Columbia, which my total relationship with that is a cruise, an Alaska cruise, which ended there. And God, what a pretty city. What a
Yeah,
pretty city.
gorgeous
So what
place.
took you to Victoria?
After university, I was managing hotels, first for Holiday Inns and then for Westin. And I was living in Seattle, and I kept seeing an ad in the Seattle Times for a position, a general manager position at a resort on
Oh,
Vancouver Island. And it kept showing up week after week after week. And I thought, why are they having trouble filling this? It sounds like a pretty dream job. And so I just threw a resume in. They flew me up, and I got that job and managed the resort for 10 years. And during that time, I became a Canadian citizen. So I have dual citizenship, two passports. Uh,
nice.
I grew up about 50 miles south of the Canadian border. And so it's the
Yeah,
same,
you were in Coeur d'Alene.
bioregion, still the
Yeah.
Pacific Northwest. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember being in Coeur d'Alene once. We had my husband and I had a timeshare kind of thingy, and we were near there. And I was freezing and everybody was on the beach. All these really white kids were getting sunburned playing volleyball on the beach when I think it was like 60 degrees. And I had lived in Tucson long enough then that I was like, they're crazy. But,
It's all a matter of context.
it is, it is. So, do you know Clint Smith by any chance? Do you know Clint?
No, I don't think so.
I'll have to introduce you guys. He also managed resorts and things like that. And
Oh,
I've
good.
watched him, but he's like Florida up and down the East Coast. He might be in Jacksonville. He might be on an island right now. I don't know where he's at, but that was sort of his job. He's an 84 alum. Um,
Okay.
yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna like look at what's behind you on the wall.
Mm,
Art, photography, um, a camera, like
the telescope.
a telescope. Are you like looking out at people out? No.
No, I live above a lake. I'm
Oh,
watching birds and
wow.
otters.
Uh, wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And so what are you doing these days, Michael?
Well, I just retired in June, so I am trying to figure out retirement. I tried to retire last year, and it didn't take, so I went back to work. Um, I'm a novelist. I've written 10 novels, published five, so I'm a
Wow.
writer as well, and that certainly keeps me busy. It's not a gigantic income, but I write kind of for a niche market, and
What's your niche?
well, I write gay fiction. Uh,
Oh,
I'm a gay
interesting.
man.
Wow. I just did another interview that's going to be live on the 3rd with an author.
Oh,
And
did you?
I just published my first book and I'm pretty broke. But it's interesting because people have said to me, I should get all the film people together sometime. I should get the writers
Mm.
together sometime, and stuff and just see what guides you in that arena. Did you like to write as a young person?
Yeah, my mother was an English teacher, and so and in Idaho, northern Idaho, English literacy is not extraordinary, and so we had to. She had a grammar jar. If we used improper grammar, we had to put a quarter in the jar. We had to do book reports during summer vacation. So I grew up writing storytelling. It's been my
This
life's
is
work.
what you had to do during. So it's funny because I write the way I speak. Like I just started the sentence with so.
Yeah.
And my son, he traveled in 2013, he's going to be 38. He said that I use ellipses all the time. And and so when I had the first run edit with a friend of mine, she's a retired pastor who also has written some books. I said, I don't want you to correct the commas, the ands, the buts, the so's,
Yeah.
because I want it to sound like my voice, and it's not a novel. Um, but as a person who really can be critical of other people, it's kind of funny that that's the way I wrote.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know where I'd be without editors. I write fiction because I can't be brief. I've never been
that's
able to be brief. So fiction, long format novels, that's my jam.
that's fascinating. I always think that if I was going to write a novel, I don't know that I'm ADD, but maybe. And if I had to remember what I said in chapter one, so that chapter two made sense, because I remember Caleb, my son, saying to me that in book 3 or 4 of,
Yeah.
Harry Potter, she changed the money in Diagon Alley. And I'm like,
Growing up, I think maybe my junior or senior in high school, there was a movie that was filmed very close to our town, starring Charles Bronson and Jill Ireland. It was a
wow.
Western called Breakheart Pass, the worst movie ever made. And my mother's friend from university was the continuity director. And my mother thinks that she should have been fired because so many things were out of order. There were shots of the train passing by, and there were shadows of traffic moving on the highway across the river from the train. And telephone poles were showing up in places where there shouldn't have been telephone poles. And so continuity, yeah, an editor helps point those things out.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. All right, so back to Up with People. One of the questions that I like to ask people is, do you have a favorite place that you visited or a place that you would never go back to or you want to go back to?
Yeah, well, we staged in Tucson, and out of Tucson, I'll just say that we were maybe a couple of weeks out of Tucson, and we went to Leadville, Colorado, which
Mm,
at the time, and maybe still, was the highest elevation of any municipality in the lower 48
States?
states.
Wow.
Over 10,000 feet in elevation, and we had two shows there. And
Oh,
it's funny, our buses even broke down going up over Wolf Creek Pass,
Wolf
maybe.
Creek, Pat,
Bit of way.
probably. Yeah, yeah.
We had to get out of the buses to take the weight out of them, and we had to walk for a number of miles just so the buses could get up over the hump. We
Wow.
got to Leadville, and we were told, and staff from Tucson came in too. I think there was some concern about performing at that altitude, and actually Reed Thompson was there
Oh, that's funny.
from Tucson. And so they told us that, the first night, do a low energy show. We don't know how this is going to impact you. We don't want any accidents. And I think we gave the flattest show out of the gate. It was just none of us were proud of it. It was just like, wow, that was boring.
Do you feel like you could have done better, but you were taking the advice of people?
We took the advice, but the second night we thought, well, that didn't. We're going to give a really good show.
Yeah.
Seven of us dropped from hyperventilation. We would pass between dance numbers behind the cyc, stepping over bodies that were propped up and trying to breathe. Um,
Holy cow.
Seven of us went to hospital in Leadville, Colorado. I don't think I'll go back to Leadville again.
It's funny, but it's not funny. But
It's not
as
funny.
long as
We're
everybody lived
actually,
to tell.
and one of my castmates, Mariette from Sweden, she something happened that it was either an underlying condition or she had passed out for too long. She had some damage to her right arm. She couldn't move it and had to go home. So that was right out of the blocks
Oh
leaving
my
Tucson. So
gosh.
it was serious. It's kind of a funny thing to talk about now, but there was a serious aspect to it for sure.
Who, the summer after I traveled, I worked in Jackson Hole, and I'm from Ohio near Lake Erie. So flat,
Okay.
flat, flat. And
Yeah.
same thing, I remember that them saying, I would be exhausted after cleaning cabins and then I was a pack cook up into the mountains
Oh yeah.
and I didn't think about it, but even cooking and baking, right? Just handling the different altitudes. But we went to Gallup, New Mexico, so we were still,
Sure.
everybody went to these places that were within an easy day's
Well,
drive.
well visited from Tucson. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So did you travel overseas with your cast?
Yeah, we are cast out of the four that staged in 1980. We were the European cast.
Okay.
So second semester, we went to Belgium and the Netherlands. We had a full semester in Europe, but in my PR city in Bradenton, Florida, the cast was told again, people flew in from Tucson, the bigwigs, and said, look, there's been geopolitical unrest in Latin America. Cast C has lost their Latin American tour. We're going
Wow.
to give them half of your European tour. And so we spent 3 months in Belgium, which is hard to do. There is not a town we did not perform in, and some
Everybody
of
there
them
knows you.
tried. And then we came home to kind of retrace the northeastern states in America, while Cat C came to perform for the Pope. They went to Yugoslavia, they went to Lithuania, they went to all these wonderful places and so lots of my cast members felt cheated, but
Yeah.
for me, that was too far away from home. I was kind of okay with the abbreviation.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah.
How, you know, so 75, you probably know this bicentennial, every
Mhm.
cast had ABC, 1, 2, 3, whatever. They were all
Yeah.
over the place.
Yeah.
They never got a day off. And then so I started in the fall of 76 and we finished what would be considered the bicentennial year. And then it switched in January. And when back then, now towards the end, people knew where they were going. One cast knew what they were doing. My son knew where he was going to go, things like that.
Right. Yeah.
But you went to the board and you found out what cast you were in and and so our big tour was Mexico. And I was like, that's not very internet. I mean, I guess it is that all of that. And
Yeah.
yet in hindsight, I've been back to Mexico City. I met on the beach in Acapulco. I met Alan Arkin because he was there on vacation.
Wow.
We were on a private beach. You know, you remember all the good things. And
Yeah.
I remember that's when I started learning French because my roommate for 6 weeks was from Brussels. So
Okay.
we, you know, and and I don't look back at it anymore in the whole like, well, they got to go to yada yada yada.
Yeah, it's not where you went, it's who you went with
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
experiences you had. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So um what about foods? Did you taste any food that was just like you loved it, or you got this look on your face right now? You
Well,
should-
because Donna, I'm such a picky eater. I've always been a picky eater, and
Yeah.
I remember this is so crazy. It wasn't even European. We were someplace in Vermont, I think, and the family for dinner had served French onion soup, which I'd never had before. And I got to the part in the soup where the bread had gotten wet and I could not place what that was in my mouth. And I was sure that it was an organ of some kind. And I was
Oh,
just,
for real?
yeah, I had to really focus not to spit it out because ejecting is usually my policy on things that I don't know. Yeah, so we ate lots of chicken, lots of lasagna, and French onion soup in Vermont.
My God, that's funny. So do you remember in that interview with Jose Luis where he said he had the black Chinese egg that's like the
Oh,
thousand,
yes. Yeah.
and he goes, never again. Never. And you're trying to be kind and you're trying to be respectful. And my son doesn't really like vegetables. I think he took a picture of a salad when he was 32 and was like, look, I got a salad. And he had a host in Switzerland who wouldn't let him eat bread and meat until he had had this vegetables.
Oh, okay.
Because it was like a test, you know, and stuff. So it's funny the things that we deal with that way.
Yeah,
So
for
tell
sure.
me, have you been a cast rep? Do you stay in touch with your cast on a regular basis? You and I chatted just a couple minutes ago.
Yeah, yeah. I'm kind of a co-cast rep with another one of my castmates. I built our cast website. I've worked and volunteered on the communications team with the alumni organization. So I'm in touch with lots of alumni in various projects. We worked really hard. John Gonzalez and
Mm.
Stephanie McAllister Cox and I worked really hard to put together the Journey walkthrough exhibit at the 2015 reunion
Ah,
in
okay.
Orlando.
Yeah.
It was a massive. We just took over this 20,000 square foot ballroom and divided it up into a maze, and we got all of the different cast groups to submit memorabilia, to loan us memorabilia. It was a walk. It was like a museum, a once in a lifetime museum of Up With People's history.
Yeah.
And I got to work with lots of alumni from different years outside of my own year at that
Yeah.
time. And
Yeah.
that was really rewarding. And working with the video archives for the Up With People Alumni Association puts me in touch with alumni from different years that they traveled, and I get to see their shows and get to see them in their shows in the videos. And it's just really great to broaden my own 1 year experience
Right.
into,
That's what
the
this
60
is. That's
years.
what this is for
Yeah.
me, except that I'm so non-techie that I always say, we're recording this. I edit nothing. It is what it is. And and I mean, I literally on Instagram the other day learned how to write Merry Christmas.
Okay, okay. I edit all the videos for the Up With People Alumni Association. So in advance of reunions or annual alumni week, I'm doing the promo videos, I'm doing the recap videos. Um, that's my
Have you
work.
seen our 76 show that we did for Televisa in Mexico City?
It's probably on the channel.
I should make see if you have it. One of our cast members in the Seattle area, he helped the Caldwells convert a lot of their things to
Okay.
digital, and he he also then for us does he does sounds like he does what you do, you know, and is super techie that way. But the thing about the videos that to me is interesting is we weren't supposed to videotape things, right? We weren't supposed to take even when my son was singing and I was in Orlando and I wanted,
Yeah.
you know, and I wanted a picture of him singing a song. He sang a song called "You're My Son,"
Oh,
um,
I love that song.
and it was
Eric Lentz, Michael
Eric
Barman.
Lenz
Yeah.
and Michael. John Lanham had been his cast musician, whatever, I don't know what the titles were anymore.
Okay.
But both John and my son had lost their dads, and both of them were the youngest of three brothers. And I remember that someone said when Caleb sang it, that it wasn't the best voice, but the emotion was there.
Hmm.
And Bowerman and I talked a lot about what it means to cast
Yeah.
somebody, and for the rest of us schmucks, to understand that it's still a show, so
Yeah.
that was very interesting. But I had that little video,
Yeah, some really poignant songs over the years that, credit to the songwriters that were very, very much had fingers on the pulse. I remember in the 90s, the song Who's Next, addressing the AIDS crisis, who's next to
Yep,
find out that they have AIDS. And that was a really brave song for Up With People in the
yep,
90s. And
yep. I have
yeah.
one I'll send to you afterwards. I'll tell you about it when we're done here, that I hasn't been allowed to be shared publicly yet.
Oh,
But the same kind of really poignant about things in our country,
hmm.
and stuff. So, um, not knowing the future, right? I know that there's
Hmm.
this thing in Denver, April 4th to the 6th. Not
Yeah.
100% sure what that thing even is yet,
Hmm.
Do you feel like you'll be there for whatever that is?
It's my birthday weekend. Hmm.
Well, that could be good or bad, right?
It's
Um,
always good going back to Denver. I
yeah,
spent a
yeah.
number of years there.
Would you have a wish for a future up with people or something else? Or do you feel kind of like I feel like what we did is never going to happen again. It's never going to
Yeah.
be that, you know, but
Yeah, I think it was never the same after the year that we traveled. It was changing, it was evolving all the time.
yeah.
I just, Up With People saved me. And
Mm,
I just think about those kids growing up in small towns all over the world that
yep.
need a vehicle to save them, to show them that there's something else out there than
Hmm.
what they're kind of stuck in.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
I would love for Up With People to have a rebirth and be, vibrant and dynamic and all over the world again. But, maybe its time has come and gone, and we're just now so fractured and polarized and distrusting, and I don't know that people would let people into their homes anymore. There's
That's a
just
huge
so
thing, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, we're back, we've reverted back in time. I know that, in the 60s and 70s, particularly in the South, people were resistant to having cast members of different colors.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
I just think we kind of, yeah,
It's weird that you
we're
say
going
that, Michael,
backwards.
because I actually found a PR thing. Again, my notebook, my spiral notebook, I turned sideways and it was kind of like a spreadsheet. And I did PR in Laredo, Texas, and there was a note. I shared it on my cast page without even reading all the notes, and it said Black student, okay.
Oh, man.
And I
Yeah.
I
In
wouldn't
the
have
70s.
even
Yeah.
remembered that. And I was like, wow, to yeah, yeah. I also, and this is kind of funny, not funny. There's so many food allergies now.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I just, the people that can't eat this, and some of them are my friends that I go out with. We go out for Taco Tuesday, and this one can't have cheese, and that one has to have
Of
corn,
course. Yeah.
and I'm like, oh my God, you know. So I think about, can you imagine doing PR now
Yeah.
for all of the different who can eat what and who can't? I mean, how much spaghetti did I eat? And if I had been gluten intolerant,
Yeah. Well, I mean, back in the day, I mean, we were told to tamp those things down. You took what was offered to you. We had Jewish cast members that, had to suck it up and,
Yeah,
eat whatever was there. We weren't, gay cast members, we weren't allowed to be openly gay. There were lots of kind of looking back hypocritical
yeah, yeah,
aspects to this
yeah.
this message we were putting out into the world. Um,
When you traveled, had you acknowledged that you were gay?
I knew I was, but I hadn't acknowledged it to anyone else. I wouldn't risk getting sent home.
That
That
is,
was too
yeah. So
important to me.
76, some people, it was our 5 or 10 year reunion. And we were all like, we knew it, right? But
Hmm.
it wasn't, it wasn't part of life or conversation at
Right.
that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting times. So
Hmm.
do you have anything else that you think would be really great to share with the predominantly Up With People alumni world?
Yeah, well, alumni need to find ways to stay active and stay connected. It used to be that we could count on a show, a tour, eventually coming to our
Right.
area of the world that we could see and gather and
Yeah.
recreate in our minds, that magical time of being up with people.
Yeah.
But now we have to dig a little bit deeper and we have to work a little bit harder to maintain those connections. And one of the things that I work with that I'm most proud of is the work that I do with the alumni, Jeff Peterson, who works with the In Memoriam, the memorial
Yeah.
database of those alumni that we've lost. And years ago, I began doing the visual element of that database. And we have a video. When I first did it in 2015 for the reunion, it was 6 minutes long. Now it's 38 minutes long
I was
and
gonna
has
say.
the names and pictures of more than 800 alumni that we've lost. And the more that time marches on, the more that biology does take over.
Yeah.
I just learned this morning that we've lost Bill Becker, who was former Up With People International Alumni Association
Oh my God, I just got
president.
chills.
He
Holy
he passed
crap.
away on the 26th of December, and
Oh
it's
my gosh.
mhm. And we're losing people every week, every month,
Yeah.
losing alumni. And so it's time to, if you've not connected to Up With People, or if you've been resistant, or your life's gotten too busy, I think it's worth it to reach out and, hold those memories close, and the people that helped make those memories even closer. We're losing them.
Oh God, that about Bill.
Sorry, I didn't mean to drop that on you. I
No, no,
just got the
no. But
email.
when our cast gets together and there's 15 people, and maybe we had one new person in September that we haven't seen for 48 years. She was nervous to come back. She didn't know because the rest of us know each other's kids and grandkids and all the
For
troubles and the
sure.
finances and all
Yeah.
that. And she joins our calls. Now she's, and stuff. So a couple things. I'm gonna wrap this up and then we have a couple more minutes. I'm gonna share a couple of things with you. But
Great.
our guy that records and keeps track of things created some images that I believe I have that show everyone from our cast who have passed. And I'll make sure
Okay.
that you see that. Some of them traveled in a lot of casts, Sam Lanham, people like that, Jose Luis. But
Mhm.
there may be people that you don't know. We had 4 bass players, and let me just tell you, but that was not a good job to have in our
Oh,
cast,
really?
So
Well, the Up With People Alumni Association website has a searchable database under the In Memoriam page. The most recent version of the video is there.
yeah,
We certainly encourage people that if they're not seeing a picture of someone they know and they have a picture, to submit it. You can submit it right there online, and
yeah.
and we're building this memorial, this tribute over
That's
time.
awesome. I'll take a look. I have someone coming to my house, so I know I just tucked those away somewhere. So see where I tucked them away. But thank you so much,
You're welcome.
and
No, it's great
for your
talking to you,
time and
Donna.
for all that you're doing for the Alumni Association, because you're right, we have that in common. Changed my life,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
best life friends from
Yeah,
this.
like none other. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So thank you, Michael.
Oh, my pleasure, Donna. Thank you.
Hold on. I got to stop recording. Ah.